Hello and welcome to Tap Into the Truth. With you as usual, this is your host, Tim Tapp, broadcasting live from scenic and historic Roane County, Tennessee. Today we're going to talk about the day after the deal. We're going to go ahead and get started, though, with a few lighter moments and a little bit of offbeat news to try and ease you into it, because there's just so much stuff that's went on with this. First off, a little something I came across. Hope you enjoy it. Got a question for you. I'm going to offer up some specifics about an organization, and we'll see if you can guess what organization we're talking about. Okay, 36 members of this group have been accused of spousal abuse. 7 have been arrested for fraud. 19 have been accused of writing bad checks. 117 have directly or indirectly bankrupted at least 2 businesses. 3 have actually done time for assault. 71 cannot get a credit card due to bad credit. 14 have been arrested on drug-related charges. 8 have been arrested for shoplifting. 21 are currently defendants in lawsuits. And 84 have been arrested for drunk driving in the last year. Can you guess which organization this is? Is it the NBA? Is it the NFL? Give up? Well, it's neither one of those. It's actually the 535 members of the United States Congress. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that same group of ever so creative and thoughtful people that crank out hundreds of new laws each and every year designed to keep the rest of us in line. Isn't that grand? Next up on the offbeat, the left's war on men continues. Well, I figure if the right has a war on women, which is crap, well, the left obviously does have a war against men. The latest battleground, Kansas. I'm going to use only first names, although you can probably look up this story on your own if you're interested. A Kansas man who answered an online ad to donate sperm to a lesbian couple is fighting the state's efforts to force him to pay child support for the girl subsequently conceived through artificial insemination. The Department of Children and Family spokeswoman Angela said on Wednesday that the agency would not be pursuing payment if the state hadn't provided more than $6,000 in benefits for the child after the Topeka couple split up. She said the state tries to establish a child's paternity when benefits are involved. Court records show that the sperm donor, 46-year-old William, signed an agreement back in March of 2009 giving up parental rights to the then couple Angela and Jennifer. Sounds sweet, don't they? The agreement also absolved William of all financial responsibility. So here's the tricky part. The state contends that this agreement isn't valid. Well, good luck, William. We know the state normally gets what the state wants. Another offbeat story for today. Tracy, a 38-year-old Louisville woman, is currently in jail after she allegedly tried to purchase several iPads with a food stamp card. When the cashier called her on it, she then fled to another location where she tried to make the exact same transaction. Guess we're just fortunate 5-0 was able to catch up with her. Heaven forbid that food stamps buy iPads. Not really offbeat, but somewhat scary. The Environmental Protection Agency says that there is no law that empowers any judge to stop it from conducting illegal scientific experiments. These experiments are being done on seniors, children, and the sick. Well, that particular assertion will be tested on this coming Friday when a federal district court in Alexandria, Virginia decides whether it has jurisdiction to hear claims made by the American Tradition Institute that the EPA researchers are exposing unwary and genetically susceptible senior citizens to air pollutants. The agency says that the These pollutants can cause a variety of serious cardiac and respiratory problems, including sudden death. Although the lawsuit only addresses ongoing, purportedly illegal experimentation being carried out by the EPA in its laboratories on the Chapel Hill campus of the University of North Carolina, their School of Medicine being involved, the EPA researchers and grantees have carried out dozens of similarly shocking experiments over the past 10 years at UNC and other schools including Rutgers, the University of Michigan, the University of Southern California, the University of Rochester, and the University of Washington. That's University of Washington, the state. During that time, at those university laboratories, the EPA has employed or funded researchers have intentionally exposed a variety of people to concentrated levels of different air pollutants, including particulate matter, that's soot and dust, diesel exhaust, ozone, and chlorine gas. That definitely can kill you, folks. Anyway, over the same period of time, these experiments in questions have been conducted. The EPA has been out telling Congress and anybody that'll listen that these things are dangerous. Well, I guess they figured that out, considering that they've been exposing people to it. Now, not only is it scary to think that they've been exposing people who are, in fact, extremely susceptible to this kind of thing, but they seem to think that they're above the law. What a surprise, especially since the Obama administration has basically told the EPA they can write their own laws. Don't believe me? Look it up. More EPA regulations exist now than ever before, and they supposedly all have the force of law without Congress ever having to be involved. Well, of course, the big news of the day, the big higamaroo, the whatchamadoo, the so-called fiscal cliff deal. If you tuned in last night or have listened to the podcast from yesterday, you know that at the time I was on the air broadcasting, the House had postponed indefinitely a vote on the Senate's bill for the fiscal cliff negotiation. While I actually was broadcasting, they called to order, they had a vote, and by the time I got home from my studio, well, the House had passed the bill as is, without any amendments, with no effort to make any changes. I espoused just a few of the reasons why I thought that this effort should fail, and mentioned a few strategies like waiting a couple of days, making the whole deal just go away, as the new Congress would be taking over from this one. But as all that happened and occurred, it just blew my mind that the Republicans once again caved in the House, even though they had the numbers, and could have done a real service for America. Paul Ryan, one of the members of the Congress that I have a relatively large amount of respect for, came out today and he offered his explanation for why he actually voted for it. I'm going to read to you what he said, and we'll move on from there. Now, here's his explanation. This is all direct quote. We'll never get our debt under control unless we tackle its main drivers: too little economic growth and too much spending. Without presidential leadership, it'll be difficult to forge bipartisan solutions to our debt and economic challenges. Today, I join my colleagues in the House to protect as many Americans as possible from a tax increase. We also provided certainty by making the lower tax rates permanent. The House has already passed legislation to prevent tax increases for every American family, and it's unfortunate that President Obama insisted on taking more from hardworking taxpayers. Despite my concerns with other provisions in this bill, I commend my colleagues for limiting the damage as much as possible. The American people chose divided government As elected officials, we have a duty to apply our principles to the realities of governing, and we must exercise prudence. We must weigh the benefits and the cost of action and of inaction. In H.R. 8, there are clearly provisions I oppose. But the question remains, will the American people be better off if this law passes relative to the alternative? In the final analysis, the answer is undoubtedly yes. I came to Congress to make tough decisions, not to run away from them. Now, we must return our attention to the real problem: out-of-control spending. Washington's reckless spending drives the debt, and this debt is hurting the economy today. Unless we get at the heart of the problem, Americans will face a debt crisis, one that will threaten our most vulnerable in particular. It is our responsibility to prevent such a crisis. All right. Like I said, typically I have a great deal of respect for Paul Ryan. The man is extremely smart. He knows a lot of facts, and unlike a lot of folks in Congress, seems to understand the value of a budget and what to do with math. But this basically just boils down to a lot of pretty words. There's serious questions to be raised with several of the statements. He says, point blank, we'll never get our debt under control unless we tackle the main drivers: too little economic growth and too much spending. This deal did nothing at all to deal with spending. What we're still finding out is there are little goodies that were part of this bill that no one was even aware of. What we found out today is that the Senate didn't even get the bill presented to them until 3 minutes before time to vote. How can this bill pass the Senate in the first place when no one had time to read it? Well, I guess maybe Nancy Pelosi went over cheerleading, went from the House over to the Senate and said, sis, boom, ba, rah, 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 we got to pass it to find out what's in it. And obviously Congress agreed. Well, the Senate agreed. Congress is actually the whole of both bodies. So nothing's accomplished there. His statement that without presidential leadership, it'll be difficult to forge bipartisan solutions to our debt and economic challenges. Well, yes, of course it will be. Not that the president did any leadership with this. He went to Hawaii. He flew back. He had Joe Biden do the negotiating because Harry Reid was too busy trying to stand firm with what he was told the Dems wanted. And then, after it was all said and done, and everything passed, he has now flown back to Hawaii, pushing the total taxpayer bill for his current Hawaiian vacation to over $7 million. That, by the way, number does not include the cost of the security contingent or the cost of the additional cargo plane that usually follows Air Force One around. Now, presidential leadership is missing because we don't have a president. We do have an occupier of the White House, but he just likes to talk about stuff and ignore the fact that he's not a dictator. There can be no bipartisan solutions when one half of the partisanship wants nothing